Welcome to Shrimperscast with me, Paul Hill.
And me, Steve Mansfield, on today's show.
Shrimpers see off Soli with Nor on the volley as Justin leaves drinkers jolly.
Kanu kick it? Yes, he can, as Super Dan scores 4 on his Roots Hall debut.
We talk to Sky Sports' Michael Bridge about his memories of watching Southend as a boy.
We've got the second part of Bernie's interview with Blues Physio John Gowens.
And we preview Tuesday's home clash against Ebbsfleet.
Hello again to everyone out there listening to this episode of Shrimperscast. It's me, Steve, here with Paul. How are you doing, Paul?
All the better for seeing you, Steve. How are you, sir?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Had a very good weekend, actually, like all the Southend fans, I believe. And Paul, you didn't make it to the game, did you? How gutted are you?
Yeah, immensely gutted because I did call it, didn't I? I said there would be 5 goals in the game.
That's a stretch. You said 3-2, but
still,
you know,
5 goals in the game. I called it, but I didn't know it would be so emphatic from the team either. And I couldn't make the game because I was actually at Charlton as a guest of the chairman club and Paul Elliott. And we'll probably talk a little bit more about it later. But wow, Mr. Kanu, what a player!
What a player! I think that's really the only place to start. The whole team played brilliantly, but you can't ignore a guy who gets 4 goals on his home debut, on his full league debut for the club. I mean, he was just absolutely immense, so confident, took his chances, and yeah, it just seems like such a bright prospect, as a footballer going forward. Amazingly, Paul, it's not the first time.
No.
It's not the first time a Southend United player has scored 4 on their league debut, which sort of blew my mind. But go on, you've been doing some digging.
Yeah, well, with the help of our man Bernie Friend, the first player to do this for Southend United on his full league debut was Ricky Cadet, who hit 4 back in 1985.
Incredible.
Yeah, but we've got a rich history of young quality footballers coming in and banging in goals on their debut. Let's not forget Freddie Eastwood.
Yeah.
And again, Ricky Cadet, and now Danny Kanu. So long may it continue.
Yeah, he was absolutely immense. And you as you were at Charlton, coincidentally on that day, you spoke to some of the guys there and heard how much they think of him. So what did they say, and what are the chances of Southend maybe extending the loan?
Well, it was Charlton Reading. It was 0-0 at half time, and I was thinking to myself, what they could do with Kanu, because as I'm sitting down, I'm watching the goals go through, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here at the Valley?
As with everyone else in the stands there, I'm sure.
Absolutely. But then they ran out 4-0 winners. In the end, Charlton. So anyway, we're back in the chairman's little room, his boardroom, after the game, and I got to talk to the chairman and said, I'm a Southend fan. Kanu's just hit 4, and they love him down there.
Yeah,
he's very highly rated. They know what he can achieve in the game. Mm-hmm. They said they needed to get out on loan. He's prolific in the under-23s and in the reserves, and they want him to get out and play football. The chairman says he has a good relationship with Ron Martin, which has been good because we get these quality young players in. But I don't think we should get too comfortable thinking we're going to sign him and we're going to end up, getting him on a permanent deal. We might get to extend that loan, but like I said, he's very highly rated at Charlton, and it would not surprise me at all if he went on and had a brilliant career there and got them up into the Championship.
Yeah, so it sounds like they'll be wanting him back. I mean, one thing that I thought, aside from the performance on the pitch, his post-match interview just came across as really level-headed, really humble, working really hard for the team and everything. So, yeah, absolutely massively bright prospect.
Oh, yeah. I mean, when you, like you say, you listen to him talk, he's got a good foot. He's got a good head on him, hasn't he?
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Very articulate. He knows, he certainly knows where the goal is, doesn't he? And I think he certainly knows where his career's heading.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I did manage to make it to the game, which I'm very pleased about. And I took my son and his friend, and, they were blown away. They're going to expect 5-0 drubbings every time they go to the hall, but it was you have to single out the guy that gets 4 goals, but honestly there was not a single player in that Southend team who didn't impress. It was just such a team performance. I've been saying this every week, but he's getting a tune out of them every time I see them play. Football's brilliant. a few names, but like I say, they're all playing amazingly. Nor did brilliantly, especially given what he did in midweek.
Yes,
you were saying, Paul.
Well, he flew out. Was it 18 hours out of Afghanistan for their World Cup qualifier against Mongolia? Played both games. In the return leg in Mongolia, I think he set the goal up. He took an absolute whack as well in the build up to the play. Then flew all the way back, had half a day in England, and then cracked on and hit an absolute screamer.
A screamer, but also, the goal's the icing on the cake. The performance from him throughout the game, so assured, absolutely running it, and he looks a championship midfielder to me. Honestly, he's just so composed. His touch is brilliant, and he's got an eye for a bit of flair every now and then, as he has with the goal on Saturday, but. Before that, in other games I've seen him, he likes a little trick. He's got a bit of skill about him. He likes to entertain, doesn't he?
He does. Well, when you look at his show reel that's on YouTube, things he did at Dartford.
Yeah.
And when we signed him, I thought, this is brilliant. But I think it took a little bit of time for him to settle in.
Yeah.
But now we are seeing the true Noor Hussein.
Yeah, he's brilliant. Jack Bridge, as ever, really good performance, really tricky, always a threat. Wes Fonguk I thought was brilliant. But I think the one guy that we've got to single out is another youngster, actually. Brooklyn, I'm going to get this wrong, but Kabangolo, I believe you pronounce it. Again, he was forced to come on because of the injury. Dimitri pulled his hamstring, had to go off. And, you do worry. It was early on. You think, is he going to settle into this? How's he going to do? And he was so assured. Just... In defence, he was brilliant, but actually I think the real threat from him was from almost, I think, every corner Southend got since he came on. They were trying to hit him and he was getting on the end of them. He forced a save out of their keeper and he was, just a threat going forward. So both ends of the pitch, I thought he did really, really well, which is, again, given the squad size and the challenges that Kevin and the team have got, being able to kind of rely on young players coming in off the bench and performing like that, just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a testament to the scouting setup there with the work that John Still's doing at the club. He, like you say, a very young lad, French national. And they did say, didn't he? He does look like he's going to be a good player, someone we can really mould into a quality centre-back. And very excited for that young man.
Yeah, so the good news is obviously the victory, all the goals and the play was brilliant. Bad news, 2 injuries. So Harry Cardwell, I think he's rolled his ankle.
Yes.
And Kev sort of seemed to suggest, hopefully it's not too bad. I think, if you don't do any proper damage, those are a week or so out. Maybe he'll have to miss the game Tuesday night. But the one that probably is a bit more serious is Dimitri.
Yeah, it looks naughty, doesn't it? I think it's his hamstring that he's done. We could be, depending on the severity of it, could be out for a good few weeks as well. And we just wish him well because he was playing. He's come in. He's been great, isn't he, Jason? So it's going to be sorely missed. I mean, we know that Nathan Ralph is slowly heading back towards full fitness. But it's just it is a worry, isn't it? These injuries, but considering how well we're playing, we're getting within touching distance of the playoffs. Yeah, with this bare bones FC, we don't know how long it's going to take for this to come over. So we hope it's not too bad of an injury, and he's back fighting fit really soon. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned there the playoffs. We like to look at the table and then sort of add the 10 points on, don't we? But without the 10-point deduction, Southend are 5th. Yep. Above Altrincham on goal difference. Mm-hmm. Just shows you, the team spirit, the results, just everything's just clicking in it. Absolutely. And what really excites me is if this takeover does come in and we can start signing players, that embargo's gone. Wow. Yeah. What is going to happen then? Well, so talking about the takeover, the main man, Mr. Justin Rees, who, again, if you've missed the podcast the last couple of weeks, we will be getting Justin on the show, hopefully in December time, for a proper in-depth interview about his plans. Fingers crossed that all goes through and we can get that interview out for you guys. But Justin was in town. He attended his first game. Yep. And
I think aside from that, he was really hitting the PR campaign hard, from what I hear, Paul.
Well, yeah, he made a bit of an investment in it, I hear, as well. You know, £400 over the bar at the Blue Boar, and a bit pre-game, and then I think it was in the Railway afterwards with something similar. Really getting to know the town, really getting to know the fans. I think he already had an idea of how special Southend was, but I'm pretty sure everyone made him feel welcome.
Absolutely. A few sore heads from what we're hearing on Sunday morning. But no, he's obviously really, putting the effort in to meet the fans, get that rapport going. I think there are some fans that are still nervous, sceptical. It was only last week, wasn't it, that there was the announcement from Ron that there was a delay. And, we reached out to Justin, and Justin said that is nothing to worry about. Bernie is in contact with him. He said it is just a formality, as Ron stated. However, you can see why certain segments of the fans, as soon as Ron Martin starts talking about delays, the scepticism creeps in.
Well, of course. Right? Absolutely. I mean, every time Ron opens his mouth, you just think, can't trust it.
Yeah.
And I'm the same. And, again, it's only an agreement being put in place. Until I see that complete handover on the first, then, then I can start to relax a little bit, as like you just said. There are quite a few fans here that, are a bit, sceptical about, all this going on. But, like you say, he was in town. He's putting his money where his mouth is. He was a bit of a PR campaign. We saw that with Ryan Reynolds and his mate, McElhenney. They did the same thing in Wrexham, but they paid half the money towards the HMRC bill as well. So why do that? I think it's all down to Ron. As long as he doesn't move the goalpost again, or there's nothing hiding in some dirty closet in the deepest halls of Roots Hall that are really going to put them off, I think it should go ahead. But, until I see it...
Until the ink's dry,
Until the ink's dry and, the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, then I'm not going to get too carried away.
Absolutely. So, Paul, you caught up recently with a real broadcaster, real presenter, Mr. Michael Bridge from Sky Sports. And he was very kind. He lent us some of his time for a quick interview about his memories of Southend and attending Roots Hall and what the club means to him. He's not actually a Southend fan, but he's still really passionate about Southend and the club. So let's have a little listen to what Mr. Bridge had to say.
I'm here now with a real presenter, a proper people questioner, as an interviewer, not a questioning people's existence or life choices. Sky Sports News' very own Michael Bridges. How we doing?
Yeah, good. How are you?
Bridge, not Bridges. Start again. Bridges. Do you know what I'm thinking of the footballer?
Yeah.
Did you play football?
Here's a funny story. I got a hotel link the other Friday for the Marriott in Leeds, Michael Bridges. Right. I was like, I might take their offer up there. I mean, honestly, please don't worry. I get it all the time.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us this morning. It's a pleasure to finally meet you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. Great to be on here.
So we get straight into it. Yeah, you broke, was it last week, a couple of weeks ago, you actually broke the news live on Sky about what was going on with Southend. And for those who aren't on social media and who may have missed it, could you talk us through what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the night before there was potential great news that the takeover was finally happening. And then the news of the High Court, which lasted less than a minute. And I saw a tweet from the brilliant Chris Phillips, with minute by minute reaction and what was going on inside. And, I just had to, I let my producer know that this was happening or this had happened. It was a packed show, to be fair. And I was really hoping she'd say, yes, we've got time. And she did, thankfully. So, it gave me great pleasure to break that because, it's a club close to my heart and it's a really good news story. So, I'll be honest, and I'm sure fans can relate to this as well. I did fear the worst because it's dragged on and on and on. And, you'd heard previous radio interviews from Mr. Martin and you do begin to wonder and fear, don't you? So, you there's times where you break news and it's very up and down. But that was one where I had a smile on my face and I don't mind admitting it.
Very welcome as well. It was great news to come through and seeing it on the, the international news. It's great.
Yeah.
But so you're not a Blues fan then?
I'm not. No, I'm actually a Tottenham Hotspur supporter, season ticket holder. I think in this day and age on Sky, it doesn't really matter if you tell people who you support, as long as you remain professional. I've done pre-season tours for Arsenal, Chelsea. So, it came about really. A friend of mine at school, so I had a Tottenham season ticket since, in the family, and a friend's dad took us to Southend Derby in May 1994. And I genuinely will never forget it. So it's the first non-Tottenham game I went to, and I'm pretty sure Southend were 4-2 up at half time. Wow. And of course, I was quite young, I think 8 or 9, and I just couldn't believe that I'd seen 6 goals in one half. So, and so it stayed with me ever since. And me and my family, we'd go to Southend at least once or twice a year. We're from Enfield, North London. And then it would always be a tradition that I'd get to go in the Southend shop before we left to go back to London. So, they've always been a club close to my heart. They've always had sort of top level players there. I remember I was there with the Moors, Chris Powell's. Yeah. So I just remember it back then, and I've always had one eye on them. So, it's been hard to see over the last few years, but I'm really genuinely hoping there's a glimmer of hope now, and it does look to be the case. And you only, when people say, players know when there's trouble at the top, and when things get better, players know that as well. And I think you maybe potentially saw that from Saturday's performance and the atmosphere. So I think what Kevin and the players, the small amount of players, what they've done over the last few months is incredible. So I really hope it's good times going forward for the fans.
Yes, and it looks that way, doesn't it? It's very good at the moment, and if we can get that takeover over the line, then we're going to see some new players coming in, hopefully, so and get that strength and depth in the squad. But I was with your colleague, Johnny Phillips, in Parliament this week, and he's a big Wolves fan. And I said, it must be really good having a club like Southend propping up your club with players like Kitely coming in and now Dan Bentley. But just going back to that game as well, we seem to influence goal celebrations as well, because Ricky Otto got the 4th. There was a bit of an air of Robbie Keane's goal celebration back in the day with the forward flip, the HUD roll and the finger guns at the end. But I think Ricky Otto did a handstand that day, didn't he?
I mean, looking back on it, I think Derby had already had secured the playoffs. And I think Southend would finish sort of lower mid-table. So it was a bit of a dead rubber. I know, actually, I got to be honest, I actually ended up watching it a few weeks ago on YouTube. I was very lucky, and it was packed crowd. I think Derby took about 4,000. So it looked like a great atmosphere. I don't overly massively remember it now. But it's funny when you look at I actually had a look at all the fixtures. Southend played Fiorentina away in the Anglo-Italian Cup. We talk about too many games now. You had 2-legged League Cups, Coca-Cola Cup, what it was then. You had Anglo-Italian Cup qualifiers, then you had group stages. Talk about fitting it all in now. I mean, I no idea. But, going on to games as well, I mean, again, massive credit to Kevin and the small squad. The National League is a tough league. So, you talk about maybe bringing a couple more in. You see the impact Daniel Kanu's made. I mean, if a couple more come in, then it could still be a really good season. I'm sure the majority of fans would just say, let's just consolidate. I know there might be one or two who say, well, we're not too far away. You never know what happens. But look, who's to? I mean, with Tottenham at the moment, they've got a very positive manager in Ange Postecoglou, and people are talking about top 4 and title, even without Harry Kane. And he said to me in a press conference, I'm not going to tell a supporter to stop dreaming. I don't do that. They have once a week or once every 2 weeks to go to their stadium. Let them enjoy it. Let them be excited. So there's no way I'd tell any Southend fan to not get overexcited, especially by what they saw on Saturday. But I think a huge thing will be injuries, won't it? And if they are able to bring more in as well. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, Tottenham are absolutely flying. And I was down at their stadium not too long ago. He's incredibly impressive. And there was you redeveloped White Hart Lane, and what is also exciting for us supporters now is that we know that with the takeover, the new stadium is near enough dead and buried, and the new consortium want to redevelop Roots Hall. So, as someone who's seen that firsthand, how important was that to stay at White Hart Lane for the fans?
Well, it went on for a long time, and it's hard to forget. There was also a time when Tottenham were considering moving to Stratford, where West Ham are. But Tottenham's plan was to knock that down completely and start again, because in their eyes, it's not a football stadium. And then they would create a stadium at Crystal Palace for athletics. always believed that it was more of a threat to Haringey Council, that if you don't help us here, we will leave. And without the football club, it's an area that will struggle. But in terms of the stadium being on where White Hart Lane was, I love it. You still, your traditions stay the same. The train journey, the difficult train journey. I mean, it's amazing that you got double the attendance now. When it's still the same train links. I think Southend played Spurs, didn't they, in the League Cup? There might have been an FA Cup game as well, going back years now. But I mean, it's they've done the stadium absolutely bang on. It's compact, the atmosphere is fantastic, the single-tiered stand, and I can totally see why Southend would like to stay there. So, although I mean it's something looking ahead, looking into the future at the moment. I'm biased. It was a family tradition of mine to always go around Roots Hall. So that would be great news for the supporters, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're all buzzing that we're staying here. It's like you say, it's your spiritual home, and you remember the journey, the stands, the memories. They're all there, aren't they? And we're really looking forward to seeing what's ahead for us at Roots Hall, and the rest of the season. Because, like you said, we are in banging form now, and with a couple of good loan players, we could be going up. Where do you think the season would end for Southend if we could make some quality additions, from your own professional opinion?
Oh, I mean, the thing is, from the time of when I used to follow sort of Southend week in, week out, there seemed to be a bit of a gap between what it like back in the day, Division 3 and the Conference. Now you look at League 2 and the National League, you've got some big teams in the National League, and now it's been extended over the last few years to 24. However, I wouldn't like to play Southend at the moment. I really wouldn't like to play them. You've got some big teams. I know Chesterfield and Barnet are at the top at the moment, but you see what Southend did to Solihull Moors on Saturday. I think a lot depends. I think it's on injuries. I really do. And as I said earlier, who's to stop any fan dreaming or hoping? I think there's so many ifs and buts in that question, in that conversation. I just hope the players stay fit. I think it's so much to ask of Kevin and the players. Saturday, Tuesday. I mean, many will disagree, but maybe going out of the FA Cup early was a potential blessing in disguise. And I think it's terrible to say that about a National League club wanting to progress in the FA Cup, given financial reward. I just think maybe this season it might help a little bit. Look, if come the end of the season and I see Southend 9th or 10th, but the takeover's all secure and Southend are already thinking about next season, I'd be very happy. Now there might be some fans listening to this now saying, no, we can get into the playoffs. Then I wouldn't stop them thinking that at all. So yeah, I think it's a lot of ifs and buts, but I mean the playoffs would be incredible. But again, I think with the takeover going through as hopefully it is, and a top half finish, I think the fans should be happy.
And we do like to dream. I mean, I look back in history and I remember an Aston Villa team back in 1981 winning the league with only 13 players. So anything is possible. Anything's possible. And, the worst phrase in football, I can't stand it, is back where we belong. I hear it every time a club gets promoted to the Premier League. There's probably about, if back where we belong existed, there'd be about 42 teams in the Premier League. However, there are teams, and I look in the National League / Conference back in the day, and I do feel it's not right you're there. Orient was one. Obviously, situations off the field. Luton was one. I found that was difficult to... And I do genuinely think that with Southend, okay, maybe I am a little bit biased, but you just see the reaction of the supporters and just how much they've stuck together. You hear the crowd from the goals scored on Saturday. But I do think the standard in the National League has gone up. And, with the TV, I think TNT, sorry, I know I'm Sky, but I think they do it very, very well. And it's great to have games on every Saturday in midweek. So, it's hopefully all a positive going forward. And it's just, going back to breaking that news, it was just nice because we've seen the berries of this world. That was awful. And, it just, clubs mean everything to the supporters. So it's just so wonderful to have that good news. And as I say again, I was worried. I was worried. So the light at the end of the tunnel was so rewarding. So I wish the club and the fans just all the very best over the next few months, and I hope to go to a game or two before the end. It'd be great to see you down there, Michael, as well. So give us a shout if you're coming, and then we'll see if we'll try and hook up for a swift seaside beer with you. But
Lovely, that'd be fantastic. Well, I'll get the train that day just in case then.
Absolutely fantastic. Give us a shout. Well, thanks again for all your time, Michael, and it's great having you on.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for speaking. See you later.
Cheers,
Thank
mate.
you.
A massive thank you from us at Shrimperscast to Michael Bridge there for coming on the show and taking time out of his busy schedule as a broadcaster with Sky. He was actually straight off to the new Spurs stadium after that interview to cover the Spurs Fulham game Monday night. So we really appreciate that, Michael. Thanks for your time. We're now going to move on to our interview with John Gowens. We had the first part on last week's episode, so if you missed it, go back and have a listen. We're now going to have the second part. This is from when Bernie caught up with John Gowens, who is the current Blues physio, last week at Boots and Laces, about his time at Southend and all the managers that he's served under over the years. So sit back, get comfy, and have a listen to this.
You came to Southend in the early 90s.
Yeah, 93, March 93.
10 years in your first spell. You're in your second spell at the moment, having returned from Dagenham last September.
Yeah.
So you had 10 years here. I worked it out. I had to get my abacus speeds out, and you'd served under 9 permanent managers.
That's right.
And obviously, as you say, Colin Murphy was the first manager you brought here, who passed away sadly in 1992.
Yeah.
So what's your memories of Colin?
Wow, what a character. He was his notes in the programme were probably the best I've ever heard.
Well, I'll stop you there because I was going to say about his notes in the programme, because Colin Murphy would have been like countdown champion, wouldn't he? He was a literary genius.
Yes, he was.
English eccentric, you might say. You needed a dictionary to read his programme notes, didn't you? And I pulled a couple out, and I don't know if you can decipher for me, but one of them was talking about being cautionary in his programme notes. He said, "Life is not like a bowl of cherries, but more like a bowl of Hungarian goulash. Hot, sticky, and at times intestinally negative." Make of that as you are. I like the description. And, again here, we cannot fall into the trap of committing practical haplography. Now, words have been my life for a long time, and I couldn't tell you what he was going on about, but I'd like to have him on my Scrabble team. But yeah, a character.
But yeah, brilliant. Yeah, he was. I mean, listen, he brought me down here. So again, another person in my life who I can't thank enough, brought me down here and went from there, really. I mean, it was strange because probably in about 4 weeks after he brought me down here, he got the sack. So it was one of them, I was like, wow, right, what's going to happen here? And then obviously Baz came in.
Well, Colin obviously had a really hard job. He took over from David Webb, who'd obviously done such a great job taking the team up to the second division for the first time. Obviously, when you've come, we're into season 2 of 6 consecutive years in the Championship, all of which you served here, which is the most successful era for the club league-wise. And Colin's legacy, God bless him, would have been signing Stan Collymore, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Which, he signed Stan Collymore. He had the foresight to bring him in. And again, I don't think some people don't realise, but Stan was having, as well as shooting us to second division, but which would be Championship now, safety then. I think his sister was ill at the time. He was having a lot of problems.
Sure.
And obviously I think he's had a few mental health problems. And we were talking about mental health problems at the start, didn't you? And I remember myself, when I was at that age, sort of, very, 20, 21, out of work for 6 months, very bleak career-wise, didn't know what was going on, too much time on my hands to think about things. And I had a few, troubles, isolation, like we spoke. And I remember a friend of mine and his father, Andrew Peacock, sadly not with us anymore. I'd not gone to see Blues the start of that season. They pulled me along to see us play Birmingham on a Tuesday night, and we beat them 4-0. And I stood in the North Bank. It was the first time I saw Collymore play. And it was like watching a man playing with kids over the park, picking the ball up on the halfway line, doing about 4 or 5 players and smashing one in from 20 yards. And that got me out of my ruts, if you like, and got me back on that, got me back on my feet, and I started going again all the time. Talk to us about Stan. I mean, what's your memories of Stan?
So, I mean, obviously, it was only a short period of time I was with him, but yeah, I mean, leading up to me coming down here, I came and watched a couple of games, one against Sunderland and one against Notts County, and it was like, wow, what's this kid doing at this level? When someone's got ability, you can see it. In the stand, like you were saying, the standout thing was his power, his pace.
Well, he had it all, didn't he?
Yeah,
for a big guy as well.
Exactly, for mobile, a big lad. He had the whole works, and you're thinking, wow, this kid could go on and on and on. So as a player, you're thinking, wow, this kid's got something, definitely. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, it was a one-off that season, wasn't it? Which will, I hope it's not, but never be repeated. Maybe it's a once in a lifetime view, isn't it? But obviously, as you say, Colin went, Barry Fry came in, first game, 3rd of April '93. The rumour is that he actually met the team on the bus up to Sunderland that day. We won 4-2 at Roker Park. Great day for you, being a Newcastle fan. And then a few days later, on the following Tuesday, we had St Angel's Day, where we beat West Ham 1-0 at home.
Right.
And Barry, he was only in charge for 30 games, pulled off a complete miracle to keep us up. I mean, what was life like with Barry Fry? It must have been chaotic.
It was.
Brilliant.
It was.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it was, exactly that.
Yeah.
It was chaotic, but at the same time, brilliant. As a manager, great motivator. He knew how to get the things out of
As
players.
a fan, he was a great motivator, running down the line after a goal.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of occasions that have went on, and when he was here, that stand out in my memory. Like when he played Fiorentina, I seen the
which
picture.
was 30 years last week. The Batistuta game, Ranieri manager. Couldn't believe it. Yeah,
I know, and I always remember going over there and we're playing them and things like that in this massive stadium.
Biggest mismatch in history, David Howe's marking Gabriel Batistuta.
So.
I think he was knocking 40, David Howe's, wasn't he then? Yeah.
About that. I
wouldn't tell him that, by the way.
I know. I mean, half-time, we're getting beat 3-0. And it wasn't just a little 3-0. This was getting wiped.
Different class.
Getting wiped.
Yeah.
So, it was a strange stadium because you went down the stairs behind the goal, but the changing rooms were in the main stand, so you had to basically walk through a tunnel and up about 4 flights of stairs. So all the lads have come in there, sitting down there, and they're all dejected, heads down and all that. Baz has come in full of bubbly and trying to get them going. Gary Pools turned around and went quiet for a second. Gary Pools went, "How are we going to beat these?" And it was silent, and Baz just went, "I don't know, just play football, And that was Baz, that's what he was. He tactically
Sunday League
to a point,
but he done all right. But to be fair, he did brilliant. He did brilliant.
Honestly, Ben, the team that he had, if Baz hadn't left, there's always that question: would we have done it?
That's because obviously we're talking the next season. So we stayed up, didn't we? Colin Moore's been sold to Forest for $4 million nearly with all the add-ons.
Yeah.
And he's brought in a player, bought boots and laces. Yeah, he's brought in, journeyman players, non-league players, players like Ricky Otto, and moulded that team together, like you say, with him as the talisman because he was so charismatic and brilliant man motivated, as you say. That season we were flying in the championship, weren't we? Up the top of the table, we were smashing teams like Derby away, and then comes that Christmas Leicester at home. He's obviously had a bit of a tap up from Birmingham. Vic Jobson's had that cringy TV interview where he stuck the Southend scarf on his neck, really uncomfortable watching, saying he was going to stay, and he went.
Yeah.
Do you think when Barry's sat at home that he ever looks back to that and thinks, what if Southend would have got in the Premier League that year? Because to me, that's David Webb's team was brilliant. Obviously, for younger generation, Tilson's team was brilliant. But for me, that is the best attacking Southend team I've ever seen.
Yeah,
do you think we could have got to the Premier League?
There's every chance of it. Every chance of it. I mean, like you say, I remember Derby away. We wiped the floor with them. And it could have
Barnsley
been even more.
away.
Yeah,
after the Fiorentina game.
Yeah, Barnsley away. And you think this team could have been up there, definitely, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
There was no doubt about that in my mind. But when you take the talisman away from it, it didn't happen.
No. Obviously, we fell away, didn't we? Yeah, obviously, Barry went. And I don't know if it's karma, but obviously Birmingham went down, didn't they?
Exactly.
Down to the third tier. And
was it Boxing Day we played them, I think, at here?
That is the only game in my life I've ever bought a ticket off a tout to get to a Southend match. I think it was 25 quid then, but it was a lot of money back then.
Yeah.
Full house.
Yeah.
We beat them 3-1.
Yeah.
Karen Brady got absolute dog's abuse.
Yeah, exactly.
She's married to Paul Pescasolido, isn't she?
Yes, that's
We
right.
stuffed them 3-1. I always remember Barry's quote in one of the Nationals was like, "I was scared for my life. I could see a gun pointing out of the crowd." Typical Barry hamming it up, And it's quite funny because years later, because when you're the local reporter and I was on the Echo covering Blues, and the chairman do ask you who you think, who do you think should be the next manager and stuff like that. And I can remember ringing Barry once when he was at Posh, but not as manager in the other role he's in now, more upstairs, and saying, would you ever be interested in coming back? And he did actually say to me to get Ron to give him a ring. But as far as I know, Ron never did. So I think there was always that little bit of regret there.
Yeah, I think
hindsight's
so.
a great thing, isn't it?
Yeah, massively. But I think that team was a very, very good team.
It was a great team.
Very good team.
So that was Barry. Another one of your managers who I think maybe did an even better job, only in charge for 14 games at the end of the 1995 season when we were bottom of the Championship again, was Steve Thompson.
Yeah,
now, I remember being at Grimsby when we got smashed 4-1. Lee Chapman got his one and only goal in his one and only appearance.
Yeah.
Ronnie Whelan got crocked. He was obviously a massive player for us that year after unbelievably materialising from Liverpool, like bizarre things in football.
That is, yeah.
And I can remember Steve Thompson being in the tunnel when I was waiting to get an interview afterwards, talking to John Adams, the former vice chairman, and I could hear him saying about how our setup was Conference League when we were in the Championship and being quite, not very nice about the way the club was. Didn't have a clue who he was. Didn't even remember him being at Lincoln. And then a few weeks later, obviously, he was in the job. So obviously that was all going on. He'd come to watch because I think he was based Lincoln Way. He didn't have the team that Barry Fry had from what Colin Murphy had given him at Colin Moore. He had a really, average team in comparison.
Can you remember what he did? One of the first things he did.
Go on.
Who did he put up front?
I can't remember. It was
Dublin.
Keith Dublin.
Keith Dublin went up front. And
I don't remember that. Did he really?
Changed, yeah. Keith Dublin.
Just to win the ball?
And it changed. For some reason, it just changed and clicked.
And he got the better out of Gary Jones and Danny Thompson, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because they were feeding off of him. He was doing the hard stuff for him.
Yeah.
Like a target man.
Yeah. And it just
didn't know what he was doing up there, obviously.
Exactly.
He had to use them more, didn't they? The defenders,
if he didn't know, they didn't know. But it just changed. It just clicked. For some reason, it just clicked. And we got out of it.
But he was only in charge of 14 games. Yeah, that was a harder job. I think that's probably the best job of anyone, escape artist-wise. And I like Tomo. He was you got what you saw.
Yeah, he's a northerner.
Yeah, exactly. But I like honest, and he really was good. It was all like bayonets and tin hats and all that. Did you have a good relationship with him?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, again, two northerners, so we kind of got on very well. It's a scenario. You either like people or you don't like people sometimes, but in football, you're going to not like people, but you're going to have to work with them. So you're going to have to adjust yourself to what they are, because at the end of the day, they're the managers.
Yeah.
Okay, they are the ones that put their head on the block, and they're the ones who are going to get the chop if you don't do your job properly.
But what did he do that year with that group of players to keep us up? Because it really was a miracle, wasn't it?
It was.
In footballing terms.
From what I can remember, it was like the Keith Dublin thing, got them probably a bit more organised, I think, maybe changed a few people's personnel. And like you say, just got the best out of people. Man management.
Yeah, 14 games.
Yeah,
man
management.
Dead and buried team.
Yeah, with man management. And probably put some belief into players that maybe were down on. I think we got
stuffed 4-0 at home by Watford when he first took up, before he took over. Yeah, I mean, we were at the bottom, aren't we?
Yeah.
At the bottom, table-wise and minds-wise.
Yeah, everything. Everything. He just turned it round. He did. He just did something that... It's like one of them things that if you could bottle it and sell it, you'd be a millionaire.
Oh, absolutely. It was and the rest. So, the next manager, 95 to 97, Ronnie Whelan.
Yes.
Now, again, I can remember going to Stoke, their old ground, and watch I think it was his second game. We got beat 4-1. I think we got beat 3-0 at Wolves in his first game. And he must have thought, what am I doing here after leaving Anfield? I mean, it was a bizarre one, him turning up here. But to me, it was like, he must want to play football, because here we are, Ronnie Whelan. We're talking about one of the most decorated players of all time. European Cups, multiple First Division, now Premier Leagues, FA Cups, League Cups. He didn't need to come to Southend, did he?
No.
What was Ronnie like? Ronnie the player.
The player?
Because he had a bad injury, as I've just said at Grimsby.
As a player, you like obviously them sort of players you only see sometimes on the television. And you don't get the full aspect of what type of player is. Until you actually see someone in real life, in training, in matches, you don't appreciate what a good player he was.
And a great international player of Ireland, by the way.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. And how he brought out the best in people. I mean, he brought out the best out of Phil Gridlett,
big time.
Yeah, he let Phil, if you like, some ways do all the donkey work, in football terms, and Ron used to manipulate the ball. And the pair of them worked fantastically together.
Yeah, they did, yeah.
He was a player that you think, wow, when you see him.
Well, to me, it was just like he hadn't come here just to walk around for the last sort of 6 months of the season. He still wanted to play football in his early 30s. Exactly. When he'd done all of that and come to Little Southend, I mean, that to me said all I needed to know about the guy.
Yeah.
As we said, we stayed up under Steve Thompson, which was when Ronnie came. And then he became manager the next season. And to be fair, the first season went really well, didn't it? We flirted with the playoffs, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I think we finished about, we were 7th or something at one point, I think. And I think the thing what happened was we hit 50 points. Yeah. And you think, go on, push on. We went the other way. Yeah. We took our foot off the pedal and cruised to finish probably mid-table, 12th, something like that, which was a shame because, again, the side that he had wasn't bad.
He brought some great players. I mean, some of my favourite players, Mike Marsh. Yeah. Again, another one. No disrespect, what you're doing here.
Yeah.
Technically, A top division player.
Definitely.
Had been a top division player. Obviously came from Galatasaray.
Yeah.
And again, and people are here for a reason. I think David Crown touched on this the other week. Players might have the ability, but they're at this reason for a deficiency or something else. That's why they're here. Probably one of the greatest talented players I've ever seen. For raw talent, Paul Byrne.
Yeah.
When he turned it on,
Yeah.
he was unbeatable, wasn't
Yeah.
he? I mean, a defender wouldn't know whether to stick or twist when he was against him, would he? You know?
Yeah.
And he had some amazing games. And what a character. What do you remember about Bernie?
Oh, my good gosh. What do I remember about Paul Byrne? Oh, how long we got?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, we're going to do a week-long pod when we get him on with a crate of Guinness.
There you go. I think that sums him up, Paul. You know, he liked to drink. But when he was on his game, wow. Again, a player that you think, what are you doing? Why are you here?
Well, he'd obviously done well in the Old Firm derbies. He'd scored, hadn't he, for Celtic against Rangers.
Yeah, exactly.
The games that stick to mind are always the goal he got against Norwich.
Yes.
And the game against Bolton when we beat them 5-1 when Allardyce was manager.
Yes.
But like you say, the ability.
The ability, you know, the ability of the lad. And again, it's one of them. If he didn't have outside distractions, what he could have been.
Yeah.
You know? And that's, again, that's a makeable
That's the thin
footballer.
dividing line, isn't
yeah,
it?
it's 100%. That's the thing that makes a player, you know? Can they block everything, all that noise on the outside out and just concentrate on the football? Or do they let their noise affect them? And with lots of players it happens, you know, not just Paul. It happens to loads of players. But yeah, again, ability-wise, natural.
Yeah.
Natural.
I mean, I remember Paul Byrne turning up at my football matches in Rayleigh on a Sunday morning in the full Adidas tracksuit on a mountain bike, shouting abuse at me on the wing, saying it's not as easy as you think, is it? But that was him, though. But a great character. That wouldn't happen now, would it?
No.
I mean, I used to love all that. It was what a great character.
Yeah, again, that's how football's changed.
Yeah.
You know, lots of people say the characters have gone out of football, but is that because of the money coming into football, changing people's...
And there's been a bit of a sterilisation of it. There's not the characters there was, were there? You know, we've been lucky to live through those times, haven't we?
Yeah.
So was there a bit of a drinking culture at the club at that time? Because there were various stories of people being found in the Rootsall car park on a Saturday morning before a game and stuff like that without naming names.
Listen, football in them days in the early 70s, 80s, even the 90s, had a drinking culture. Of course it did, you know. And listen, people get carried away with themselves, can't control their drink. You know what you Southerners are like, can't handle it. You know, you have a shandy, you're all over the place.
Panda shandy,
yeah.
Other products are available. Yeah.
But yeah, listen, of course it was. Yeah, I think every club at that time had a drinking culture. You know, where a group of lads would go out and it's the pressure relief.
Yeah.
Footballers do certain things. They either drink, bet, or put themselves about, shall we say?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
put themselves about. Yeah.
And that's what it used to be like in football.
And we're not talking about on the pitch.
No.
Right. Obviously, the wheels come off the next season. We went down.
Yeah.
The next manager I wanted to talk to you about that you served under was David Webb, who came back for a third stint. That was your first taste of Mr. Webb. Obviously, held very high in these parts.
Yeah.
How was that?
He was very old school. He was brought in to do a particular job, you know. I think Alan Little had maybe had the reins of spending money and things like that. And that was really when John Main left and Ron came in. And Ron, basically, one of his first things was to get rid of Alan and then bring David in.
I thought David was brought in to put out a few fires and cut things back.
Yes, I think that's what his criteria was.
Yeah.
His job.
He was like an asset stripper, wasn't he?
Yeah. His job script was to do that, you know, and obviously he was unloading players that Alan had brought in and things like that. Obviously, later on in my career...
Mostly people that spoke like you.
Yeah.
Didn't want to know them, mate,
no, didn't want to know that.
You done well, didn't you?
I was about to say that. I did do well. But funny enough, we got on really well because, I mean, again, working class lad from the North East, he was a working class lad from the East End and things like that. So we got on really well. And it was strange because, obviously, at Roots Hall, it's changed now. The treatment room used to be attached to the dressing room.
Yeah.
And David always used to come in from half-time, hang his coat up in my treatment room, and he always used to go, oh boy, that you used to have a little chat with me and things like that, and then go in and do what you have to do. Towards the end of it, you could see in his mannerisms and in his persona, I think he was starting to get a bit tired of it and thinking to himself, you know, is this what I really want to do now and things like that. And I can't remember the game. When he actually came in, hung his coat up, and he actually put his hands on the coat for a while and turned around to me and went, that's me done, son. And I like...
Was you shocked? Well, if you said that, was you shocked? But...
I think I was, yeah, because there was no sort... Normally you can see it coming.
Yeah.
You know, we're playing poorly or the pressure or things like that. But you didn't see that with David's time of departure, so it was a strange one.
See, I always think with David, he always seemed to have his fingers in a lot of other pies as well. If he just wanted to be a football manager, and obviously, he's older than when he did the great job he did here and at Brentford and, in the past. And I think maybe sometimes there was a lot of pies. I mean, I remember ringing him once and he told me he was up in the north somewhere, maybe Hartlepool, and he was looking at old petrol station sites, to buy. I don't know if that was for housing or whatever, but he had a lot of business interest, didn't he? And there were legendary stories about his swimming pool, his old gaff being full of golf clubs and things. He was a bit of a Del Boy sort of character, wasn't he?
Listen, again, what you just said, typical what you'd see East End boy, things like that.
Yeah. So obviously, as we touched on at the start, sadly in David Webb's tenure, on April the 16th, 2001, Mansfield Town at home. The referee, Mike North, collapses on the halfway line. Yeah. From my memory, you were the first one running out there with your bag. Yeah. What do you remember about that day? Very sad.
Yeah, it wasn't nice. So I remember the ball going forward and him turning. And funny enough, if I might be wrong on this, I don't know, someone I'm sure will correct me. I'm sure he either collided with Kev or he was close to Kevin.
Well, the crowd cheered because they thought the referee had just fallen over and everyone went,
exactly.
Yeah,
and then he fell.
Yeah.
And then I went, no, this ain't right. And I went straight on, get him into the recovery position. And by the time I did that, the club Doc Singh came and the St John's ambulance came and they basically took over from me. And then I took obviously a step back and just let them be and things like that, and just basically try to keep the players away and things like that.
That autopilot kicking in again?
Yeah, it was, but it's something that you don't really want to use, that sort of them sort of skills and things like that, and it was. I was going to say strange. It was something that you'd never like to see.
No, it's surreal.
It's horrible.
Very sad for his family, for it to happen in that way, and obviously he passed away. But I think what I'd like to ask is, I mean, if that was to happen today, are things different? Yeah. We've heard recently of a few fans that have had heart problems at games. Are there many defibrillators at Roots? I mean, are we set up for that sort of thing? So, is it better than it was then?
Oh, massively. Yeah. Massively now. So, I mean, on a match day, if you like, you've got myself, you've got Doc Francis, you've got Doc Tars, you've got Kev the paramedic, all sitting in the front here of where the dugout is. We've got our private medical, if you like, not St John's, but they're a private medical company that have got virtually every gadget that you would want. So if that happened again, it would hopefully be a completely different out.
That's good to hear. Let's hope that's the case. Yeah. That's really good. Okay, so as we said, you came back September last year, so you've just done over a year back here. Got dragged back. Welcome back again. Obviously great to be back. It was great to see you back. I remember you messaging me to tell me you were coming back. It was brilliant to hear. And obviously the guy to me that's very important in what's going on here at the moment that you were at Dagenham with is John Steele. Yeah. I always refer to him as being the godfather of non-league football. Yeah. Someone with a wealth of experience, more contacts than you'll ever need. Yeah. If we get the sale through at the club, I'm not saying these guys are going to be throwing millions around, but he's someone that can, make the most of whatever resources he's given. And obviously we need to get new bodies in, and I'm sure that he's already got irons in the fire, John. Do you think for bringing new faces in?
Yeah. Listen, I mean, when I first met him, over 20 odd years ago, and that's what he always says to me, 20 years gainfully employment, that's what he always says to me. He came to me, he says, I want you to come to Dagenham. We've got a 5-year plan to get Dagenham into the Football League. I'm like, Dagenham? You sure? I says, okay, come on. We did it in 3. We did it in 3. And then we went again into League 1. Now, Dagenham in League 1. Yeah. Wow. And that just shows...
That is punching harder than Tyson at his peak, isn't it?
Wow. It is unbelievable. Yeah. And that shows the type of person he is. He creates teams, and that's one thing I've learned from him more than anything is it's not necessarily about the individual that you have, it's about the team that you have. And that's what we've got at the moment, this football club, with Kev, Darren and Mark and John. The creation of a team, and a team can go a long way in my eyes. And if things happen, and hopefully they do, and we are able to bring in reinforcements, he will have the right ones to come in. He will. Yeah. He'll have them lined up.
Yeah, I mean, I know he's such an important part of what's going on here.
Massively.
Well, let's hope that does get through, and the better times are around the corner. But I'm sure I think from myself And all the other fans that, at Rootsall and going away in their numbers, we'd just like to say thanks, for what all you guys are doing during these hard times. And yeah, hopefully there's some light at the end of the tunnel now.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I came back. I live locally. A lot of people say now I'm an Essex boy, which I'll never ever be. Trust
That's very
me.
nice.
Exactly. With my accent, no chance. But this is my team. Even though I spent 19 years at Dagenham, the first result I looked for after Newcastle was Southend. And when Stilly and Kev asked me to come back, I turned them down quite a few times because my life was going in a different direction, and I stepped away from the medical side of things.
You were coaching at Highbridge, right?
Yeah, I was helping Tilly out, and at Dagenham we were starting to set up the youth department again at Dagenham, and I was heading it all. And they basically dragged me back, and do I regret it? No, I don't regret it. It's a club close to my heart, and one that I want to help get back to where it should be.
Oh, okay, mate. Well, it's great. It's great that you came back, mate. It's great to see you again and talk to you.
Cheers.
Thanks, John. Thanks very much.
Mate.
Now, Steve, I hear you have been fairly busy building a online shop.
I have, yeah. I've been building a Shrimperscast store.
Oh, what are we selling then?
All kinds of merchandise. Actually, no, we've got two options on there. You can purchase our famous beer mats,
yes,
which can be seen in many a Southend establishment. But that's not the most exciting product on our store. We've launched a T-shirt. Basically, we've got our brilliant logo that was put together by a great designer called Will Thatcher, and I've basically put that on a Southend navy sort of T-shirt matching the home colours. So it's our home Shrimperscast tee, and it's available on shop.shrimperscast.com. Now, for a short time, there is a 10% off code. So this is a pre-order. So if you pre-order your T-shirt by the 12th of November, you can get 10% off. The code is there on the shop, on the page, so you can just copy and paste that in. And we're also, we're looking out for our supporters out there, our listeners, to support the podcast. It's been great. We've got such a good lot of feedback, and we wanted to give people the chance to support the podcast. But at the same time, we're using this as a fundraiser for the Shrimpers Trust. Everyone listening should know the work that the Trust have done in holding Ron Martin to account, essentially, has been absolutely amazing. They put together that report to demonstrate to the powers that be, if you like, why the Martin model is not the one for football clubs. And they're really, really banging the drum and flying the flag for football clubs and ownership in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to get behind that trust and do what we can to help support them, because they have invested a lot of money in, keeping the staff paid and keeping the club moving forward. And I did see, I wish I knew about that 10% code beforehand, because I saw in our little group chat that somebody had already bought one, and I get a sneaky feeling my wife's already bought me my Christmas present.
Oh, well, she would have seen the code on there. So look, buy a Shrimperscast T-shirt. They're really cool. The design's great. Going to be really high quality. We've got a really good guy screen printing them for us. Go onto the shop, and 10% of all net sales will be donated to the Shrimpers Trust as a donation.
Fantastic. And so we've got the home side. Are we going to get an away one as well, the yellow one?
Maybe one day we'll have a yellow, and then maybe even a pink.
Oh, get on that.
Off the back of that fantastic win against Solihull Moors at Rootsall on Saturday, Southend welcome Ebbsfleet this Tuesday. So I'm here with Paul for Paul's preview.
Was that my jingle?
That's your jingle. You've not recorded your own one yet, so you go. It sounds like Super Mario.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
You can tell what I've been doing with my weekend, playing video games with my son. Let's have a little chat about Ebbsfleet coming to town Tuesday night. Paul, what have you got for us?
Well, they aren't in a great run of form at the minute. In their last 11, they've only won 1. They've drew 3 and lost 7. Scoring 11 and conceded 24. But I always get worried when teams come to us when they're playing when they're not playing really badly. They are scoring and conceding. And they just can't keep a clean sheet. Again, they've come up. I mean, their away form in their last 8, they haven't won. They've drew 2, lost 6. They've scored 9, conceded 24.
Yeah.
So, I mean, wow, we scored 5 at the weekend, and a lot of people might be thinking, great, this is going to be fantastic. Team come in who can't win.
Yeah.
We've just scored 5 against who are third. It never works out that way. It never, ever does. They're going to be very aware about, the quality that we have. They're going to come to frustrate us. I think might be an air of, remember the Maidenhead game where we really had to grind out their result?
Yeah.
I think this is, it could be one of those matches here because they're going to be a tough nut to crack. They're on 17 points just with us. I know we're pulling away from the bottom at the moment, but that's the beauty about this league. Anyone could beat anyone in any day of the game. So we've really got to be aware. Don't have that complacency, and hopefully Kanu can carry on his rich vein of form here and get us over the line.
Yeah, so we'll probably be definitely without Dimitri added to the injury list, but probably Harry Cardwell, depending on how he responds after rolling his ankle. Kanu looks like he can fill in and play up top on his own. In terms of your usual scouting report, ex-players, ex-Southend players, they've got a few, haven't they?
Yeah, well, it's 3 that at the moment that's sitting within that squad. We've got in the midfield, we've got Josh Wright, who was with us only for about a season and then moved on to Bradford. And so he's had a bit of a career, a bit of a journeyman. Shaq Colhurst, he was with us, and we saw Tottenham, very prolific in the Tottenham under-23. Never really hit the ground running in various clubs. I think Barnet was his one where he hit double figures, but he's at Ebbsfleet, really not, can't really find the net here. But their danger man is Dominic Polion. Now, we had him as a youngster. Left us for Leeds. I think he's got a bit of a point to prove here. I mean, he's in his 30s now, but he's like their Freddie Eastwood. He is prolific for Ebbsfleet. So it's just unbelievable the amount of goals he's scored. He turned up in 2020, 2021, and he played 2 games, scored 2. Right, the next season, 13 appearances, hit 17 goals. Season after that, 21 appearances, 36 goals.
Oof.
Yes. And then this season, 9 appearances, 8 goals.
That is some scoring record.
It is indeed, and he's coming back to where it all started for him. And like I always say, I'm always wary about ex-players coming back, point to prove. And this man here, Poland, I think he's going to be your, the quintessential. Here I am. Look what you missed out on.
Yeah,
and
definitely got a point to prove. So
indeed.
He'll be the one to try and keep quiet. Justin Rees is going to be in attendance again at the game. The atmosphere should be absolutely bouncing, so that'll be counting towards Southend, and we should make it quite a difficult place for them to come. So, should be another good night at the Hall under the floodlights on Tuesday night.
Well, you'd like to think so. I mean, I don't think it's going to be another rout. It'd be great if I was wrong and we ran out 3 or 4-0 winners.
Yeah.
But I really wouldn't be surprised if this one is literally 1 or 2-0 or even 2-1 Southend. I think it's going to be a tight game. Could be quite a cagey affair. We can't have any more injuries. So, I think if you're a Southend fan looking forward to this game, I'd be quietly thinking, it's going to be a tricky one. We don't want any slip-ups. Like you say, some big games coming up after this as well. We need everyone on board. It's going to be tough. It'll be tricky, but, we could do it.
Yep. Well, form's on our side and not on their side. So, should be another good game. Cheers, Paul.
No problemo.
Big thank you to everyone out there who has listened to today's action-packed and probably rather long Shrimperscast episode. Paul, thanks for joining me.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Always a pleasure. And Paul, you're off on holiday now, so off to Egypt, I believe.
Yep, I'm on a scouting mission to Sharm el Sheikh, and then away for half term, and then I'll be back fighting fit with I'm a ginger, so I'll probably be more sunburnt than tanned.
Good stuff. Well, have a lovely holiday. Massive thank you to Michael Bridge for joining us for his interview, to John Gowens and Bernie for the interview there with the physio, and as ever, massive thanks to everyone listening. Have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week. Up the Blues.
Up the Blues.